is Wednesday, which means Ignite Cup is only hours away. And tonight it's the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix in their first Ignite Cup appearance of NBL 26. Welcome back to NBL Now, brought to you by Code Sports, the home of NBL coverage. Kelsey Browne with you for today's episode. And with me again is three-time NBL champion, fan favorite, and Brisbane superstar, Prather. Case, great to have you back. How's the weather in Brisbane today?
Well, wow, fan favorite. I'll take that every day. But weather is pretty hot today. But for me, that's a plus. So enjoying my day.
We absolutely love having you on here. Great feedback last week. Let's hope we can keep it going. Let's recap the current standings for Ignite Cup. It's become our specialty on this podcast. So New Zealand currently on top with 18 points. Perth are on 13. Your team, the Bullets, and the Illawarra Hawks are both on 8. And the JackJumpers, who face Southeast Melbourne tonight, on 7. We know it's 3 points for a win, 1 point for a quarter win. If Tassie can get all 7 points tonight, they jump into second. For you, New Zealand, Brisbane and Tassie, all still in the running. They're around the middle of the hunt for NBL season, but for Ignite Cup, they're really in the race. How does that feel for you and for the team?
I mean, for us, we super excited about it. Having an opportunity to go out there and play for something that's so big for us. For us, being able to put a little bit of money in our pockets, hopefully, it's always good. I'm over here wishing that Tasmania doesn't really get around that 7-point mark, and hopefully Southeast can get around like 3 or 4 of those. So it'll be good.
The tough thing for Brisbane is they've still got Melbourne United to face in Ignite Cup, which is a bit of a tough one, but Melbourne United are on a slide. Let's talk about Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, though. Yet to play an Ignite Cup game, but they are absolutely throwing down in games at the moment. Everyone was sort of skeptical with where they were at. I'm interested. Are you a converted believer in Southeast Melbourne Phoenix?
I've always been pretty much a believer of their team. Like I said, it's kind of cliche, but anytime you can win, anytime you win a championship, defensive usually is involved. But you look at this Southeast Melbourne team, and they're doing it defensively, offensively. I'm pretty sure they lead the league in points per game right now, which is kind of crazy. They lead in a lot of different categories: 3 points, offensive rebounding, steals. So this team is real.
I love that they're known for their defensive identity, yet they're leading the league in points per game as well. What about Nathan Sobey? You were in MVP contention before you went down, but he's been in the discussion the whole time as well. How are you viewing his performances at the moment? They're out of this world.
Yeah, like you said, out of this world. This guy has been just phenomenal for the whole season, just leading his team in points and doing it in an efficient way and like a mature way. Nathan Sobey had a rep back in the day of not playing basketball the right way, but you look at what he's been doing for Josh King, and it's just absolutely unbelievable. So being able to watch him do it, and I definitely have him in my MVP category.
What do you think the change has been for Sobey? There seems to be a lot of talk around his maturity. He's 35 years of age, but maybe basketball maturity. You've been a teammate of his before?
Yeah, I came in with Brisbane, and he was on my team. Awesome guy, great standards of how he played. Kind of got a bad rep. I'm not sure where that came from, but I guess the maturity is the one thing that kind of stands out to me. Just watching how he approaches the game, you could tell right now he's all about winning, all about the team, all about putting his body in the defense first, and then just letting those points come. And Josh King is doing a great job of just building a system around him and allowing him to just be him and just play the game that he loves to play. So I think the maturity of that is, next level for him.
I love when you talk to Josh King as well. He's just so complimentary of Nathan Sobey. And sometimes you just need a coach who's going to really back you in. And I feel like the relationship between King and Sobey at the moment is a really epic one. Let's talk about their weaknesses, though. Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, we talk about their scoring power. We talk about their defensively. Is there weaknesses that you see?
I guess I would say, with how aggressive they play defensively, that leads to a couple fouls. And it's a team right now where you can't afford to have Jordan Hunter or John Browne sitting out, especially with a catch being out for a while now. If those guys are on the bench, that's just going to be very problematic for Southeast. Along with that, I guess defensive rebounding, they can be a bit better on the defensive end, just trying to secure those rebounds. But it's a pretty well balanced group. So there's not many, deficiencies in the group, but I guess I would say those two.
Just want to throw you a little curly one. You're an import, and there's been a little bit of criticism around their import trio. Obviously, they got rid of Lenz Blyenberg early in the season. They made that call very early. Maldonado, John Browne, and Wes Iwundu come in. How are you viewing their trio at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. They come in, they understand their job, they understand their roles. Josh King has made an emphasis on, picking certain guys that kind of fit into his system. And I think it's working out very well. You don't really need those guys to come in and just drop 30 on it every game. Pretty sure those guys can do that every now and then, but you got a guy in Sobey who can, pretty much command that on a day in, day out basis. So those guys fit in the system very well, and Josh King should be proud of what he did in recruiting those guys.
Not everyone can come in and put together a Casey Prather performance. And let's talk about the JackJumpers. Now, they have been on a slide, haven't been able to protect home court at all, lost 4 of their last 5 games. It's not what we've known from the Tassie JackJumpers the last few years. Scott Roth, do you know him well as a coach?
Unfortunately, I do not. Pretty even keel guy, pretty strict demeanor. So pretty sure that's how he is in person.
Yeah, I just would love to know your thoughts on a Scott Roth-led team. What do you think is going wrong for Tassie at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's early on, Tassie got hit with a couple of injuries, and I'm not the type of guy who like to base the record based on, no injuries or anything like that. But, I'd be a fool if I didn't say that contributed into a team's success. So I think that plays a major role into it, especially when you add in new guys, new imports. You add Josh Bannon to the team. So there's a bit of a culture shift. And you don't really have guys like, the Jack McVay or the Doyle who could, kind of command that attention in the fourth quarter. Hamilton, he does a great job at times. And, he would be the guy who kind of leads them towards that. But for the most part, whether it's a cultural identity shift or the injury bug hit them early, it's hard to tell, but I'm confident that those guys can figure it out.
You think that they can turn it around? Do you have them pegged to make the finals?
Not sure about the finals, but, anything can happen. Those guys are literally right there. One game that they win, this weekend, or a game that New Zealand lose, it could be the difference between 6th and 7th place right there. It's a long season ahead. Again, with guys like Scott Roth, who traditionally has been a phenomenal coach and getting his team to buy in and play the right way, you can never count them out. So there's always an opportunity for that.
Yeah, I think Tassie really can't count out. They've kind of flown under the radar with Illawarra not going so well, defending champs, but Tassie really need to get it going, especially with New Zealand finding their form so much in the last few games as well. Okay, give me a tip for the game. Southeast, Melbourne and Tassie. How do you see it playing out? Who wins?
Southeast and I think Southeast is going to go take it. It's going to be a tough game, though. Last game, they lost by 1 point, so it's going to be a tough game, but I think it's a possession game. Like I said, Southeast does a great job of offensive rebounding and getting steals, and that kind of fuels their points and points per game. So if Tassie can kind of, control the ball, handle the ball, and actually go after the glass a little bit more, it'll be an interesting game.
Last time I spoke to you on this podcast, we talked about Bryce, and you were talking about him going in on Sunday and the occasion and how big it was going to be. One, amazing turnout from the Red Army. Amazing how they showed up for him and gave him the respect that you were asking for. You called it. You said, I want to see a video on the Jumbotron. They did it. They're all listening to Casey Prather and NBL Now, apparently. But how did you view that performance from Bryce in the 36ers? It was a pretty special one.
Man, special performance. What a performance. You could tell just seeing his reaction after the game. He just sitting there in the middle of half court screaming, let it all out. And you could tell his teammates really want that win for him. The way they played down the stretch, it was just unbelievable. Their consistent hunger to get that win done for him. But I'm more impressed with how Bryce handled the whole game, right? He could have easily came out and shot 30 shots, 32 shots. But instead, in the beginning of the game, he got his teammates involved, got Isaac on a couple of roll downs, ended up with 13 assists. That's just a phenomenal effort and a recognition from a guy who's going into, enemy territory, especially, that was your last team that you played for. I don't know if I could have done it. I probably went out there and shot as many times as I wanted to, but it's just a credit to how he is as a pro.
We talk about maturity, and that was a really mature and strong game from Bryce Cotton and getting everyone involved. And I do want to ask you, there's been some talk early on in the season around Adelaide and the balance of the team. It really looks like now they are the best balanced team. Everyone thought it was potentially Melbourne United to begin with. Is Adelaide now the best formulated roster?
It's kind of early to say. They're the most exciting roster, I will say. You know, you got a human highlight film at the 4 position. You got Humphreys playing out of his mind. You got Flynn going crazy, and you got Bryce. So that's just a recipe for an exciting game every single time they touch the floor. And whether they have the best, recipe to win for success or anything like that going in the future is yet to be seen. You know what Melbourne United has? You know, they traditionally have pretty much the same kind of roster built like that and that same kind of style. But yeah, I think Adelaide may be one of the best, if not the best, formulated roster that we have.
Well, lucky for everyone who tunes into NBL, we've got that game coming up on Friday. It's now 1v2 Adelaide and Melbourne. What did you make of Dean Vickerman's starting 5? I'm so intrigued to hear players' takes on this. Have you had a rocket in your time? Have you been benched in a starting 5?
Maybe in college, some coaches do that. They bench their whole starting 5 and bring the new guys in, and the message is like if anyone wants to play hard, they get this playing time, they get this position. So I'm pretty sure those guys are fired up moving forward. But I didn't really like the message per se because anytime you go into a game of that magnitude, I like to ride with my dogs, my guys who got me there. So yeah, hopefully they got the message. Against Southeast, they didn't get the message. So it'll be interesting to see against Adelaide.
Do you think he'll go back to his starters?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I think that was a one-off type of scenario where you just kind of light a fire on them, let them know that, hey, anybody can play, anybody's replaceable. And after that, you put your guys back in and hopefully they get you a win.
So you've been coached by Dean Vickerman before. He's a 3-time coach of the year. He's an incredible coach from what I gather. Personally never been coached by him, but from all reports on the outside, he just has his way. The system is so set at Melbourne United. They're coming off 2 very ugly losses though. Can you go into the mind of Dean Vickerman and that system? What is he saying to them this week? How are they turning that one around?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, they just breaking down film. One big thing that we did a lot, we all gathered inside the circle, kind of talked about, it was a free, open conversation between the players, the coaches, and we just pretty much dissected the film, dissected what we were weak at, our mindset going into the game. So I don't think it'll be any different. I think that those guys are getting around each other, trying to figure out the fastest and best solution to win. With Dean just pointing out every mistake that they made, as well as how they look when they do make those changes. And I think that that'll be a free-flowing change. It would be seamlessly as well, and I think they'll naturally get into it.
Does he blow up?
Yes, of course, 1,000%. But he's a good mind though. He knows how to blow up and when to blow up and when it's appropriate and how each player handles it. So it's not just the all rah type of blow up. It's more so like strategic. And, I'm an older guy now, so I kind of understand when he's trying to do that and, when other coaches are. So for me, I kind of sit back and just let it happen.
It's all about the timing as a coach, isn't it? When to blow up, when not to. Okay, let's finish on your Bullets. Not a great performance, not a great outing. How did you view their last one? Where are the issues?
Yeah, it was very tough to watch, especially when you know that they can play so much better, right? Coach spoke about it a little bit, but, offensively, we just didn't have too much of flow. The ball was moving, but shots just weren't going down. I think that's something that we really need to key in on. We really need to find, effective, efficient ways to put the ball in the basket, especially when, other guys are not really going right now. So, yeah, defensively, I thought we were okay. There's always room to improve on that end, but for the most part, we couldn't make shots. And, basketball is all about making shots, in my opinion. So, hey.
Bit to go for the Brisbane Bullets, but they meet the Hawks tomorrow night. One question, is JFL ready to go?
Not sure. He's doing everything to get ready for the game. I'm pretty sure if he goes on the court tomorrow or Sunday, or excuse me, Thursday or Sunday, whichever day it is, he'll be ready to go and ready to play hard. So I'm excited to see him back on the court. Every time we shared the court together, he was always a true baller. So I want him on the court as soon as Thursday. If that happens, it's yet to be seen, but I'm rooting for him.
Well, Casey, we'll finish that one there. Thank you so much for your time. I love sitting down and talking to you. We got some insights into Dean Vickerman, insights into your team, and a massive clash of Ignite Cup coming up tonight between the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix and the Tassie JackJumpers. You enjoy your afternoon. And for those of you who are at home, you can jump onto codesports.com.au, check out all of the exclusive insights, insider access, and it's your number one home for basketball. Enjoy the hoops and the rest of this NBL round.